Hey there. Tonight, we're going to let our minds drift, like a lone feather caught in a twilight breeze, tumbling slowly towards an unseen destination. You see it, don't you? Twirling just so against a sky the color of bruised plums and old velvet. It's not in any hurry, and neither are we. We're just going to explore a thought. A soft, silly, slightly perplexing thought. Why do socks vanish but never write home? It's one of those quiet mysteries, isn't it? You probably won't remember any of this. And honestly, that's kind of the point. Just a gentle wash of words to carry you off. So, before you fully zone out, go ahead and like this video and subscribe, but only if you actually vibe with what I do here. I'd love to know where you're listening from too, and what time it is in your corner of the world. Drop a comment if you feel like it. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's wander through tonight's thought together. You find yourself settling into that quiet space, the one between wakefulness and the gentle pull of sleep, and your thoughts begin to unspool, not in a rush, but like a ribbon of smoke curling upwards from a snuffed candle. And this idea, this peculiar notion of the vanishing sock, it takes hold, not with urgency, but with a soft, inquisitive touch. Why do they leave? And more curiously, why the silence? No postcard from the void, no hastily scribbled note tucked into a shoe, just absence. You drift, then, to the very beginning of it, the moment of departure. Not a dramatic exit, no slamming doors or tearful goodbyes. It's quieter than that, more subtle. You imagine a sock, perhaps a favorite one, a cozy woolen companion, or maybe a thin, unassuming ankle sock barely noticeable in the grand theater of your wardrobe. It's there, in the laundry basket, a jumble of colors and textures, a temporary limbo between wear and cleanliness. Or perhaps it's freshly laundered, warm from the dryer, smelling faintly of sunshine and detergent, lying innocently on the bed, waiting to be reunited with its partner. You picture it. The light in the room is soft. Maybe the dim glow of a street lamp filtering through the curtains, or the pale wash of early morning before the world truly wakes. There's a stillness. You can almost hear the house breathing around you, the gentle hum of the refrigerator, the distant sigh of the heating system, the occasional creak of floorboards settling. And in this quietude you wonder, does the sock feel a shift? A tiny, almost imperceptible tremor in the fabric of its existence? You imagine it becoming aware, in its own sock-like way, of a call. Not a voice, not a sound you could hear, but something else, a pull. A gentle, insistent tug from somewhere else. Perhaps it's the allure of a shadow. A deep, inviting darkness in the corner of the room, under the chest of drawers. A space unexplored, promising a different kind of quiet. Or maybe it's the sliver of space between the washing machine and the wall. A narrow canyon of mystery, cool and undisturbed. You see it, the sock, slowly, almost imperceptibly beginning its journey. It doesn't roll dramatically. It doesn't leap. It's more like a sigh, a yielding. Could it be a yearning? You ponder this. Do inanimate objects yearn? We imbue them with so much of ourselves, our warmth, our routines, our very scent. Perhaps, just perhaps, a fragment of that consciousness, a desire for something more, or something different, seeps into the fibers. A longing for an existence beyond the foot, beyond the shoe, beyond the drawer. A life less constricted. You almost smile at the thought. A sleepy, whimsical image of a sock, small and unassuming, suddenly filled with a quiet rebellion. A desire for autonomy. You follow its imagined path. It might catch on a stray thread of carpet, a momentary pause in its great escape, or perhaps it's aided by a gentle draft, an unseen current of air nudging it along like a tiny textile tumbleweed. You try to feel what it might feel. The rough texture of the floorboards, the cool smoothness of linoleum, the surprising depth of the dust bunnies it encounters, like ancient, fluffy denizens of this under-furniture world. Are they surprised to see it, this traveler? Do they whisper warnings or welcome it into their silent kingdom? The darkness it seeks, you think, isn't a frightening darkness. It's a comforting, enveloping darkness. the kind of darkness that promises anonymity, a release from expectation. No more conforming to the shape of a human foot, no more endless cycles of wear and wash. Just being, unseen, unbothered. Is that what it's after? Peace? Or is it adventure? A tiny sock-sized odyssey into the unknown. You try to imagine the world from its perspective, down there on the floor. The towering legs of furniture, like ancient trees in a forgotten forest. The vast, unexplored territories beneath the bed. A landscape of lost buttons, stray pennies, and perhaps other wanderers. Does it sense them? A fellowship of the misplaced? You wonder if there's a subtle communication, a network of threads, unseen by human eyes, connecting these lost items, a silent, knowing camaraderie. And then there's the moment it crosses a threshold, the edge of the rug, the gap beneath the door, the tempting maw of the heating vent. This, you feel, is a significant moment, a point of no return, perhaps. Does it hesitate? Does it, for a fleeting sock-second, consider the partner left behind, the warmth of the drawer, the familiar routine? Or is the pull of the unknown too strong, too seductive? You lean towards the latter. There's a certain romance to the idea of a clean break, a new beginning, even for a sock. You think about the physics of it. A static charge, perhaps, drawing it towards a metallic surface, a hidden pipe, a forgotten nail, or the simple, undeniable force of gravity, pulling it into a crevice, a forgotten corner where gravity seems to hold a special, quiet power. It's not a violent abduction, not a theft. It's more like a gentle surrender to these unseen forces, these quiet invitations. The air around it, you imagine, changes. Behind the washing machine, it's cooler, damper, with a faint metallic scent. Under the bed, it's dry, dusty, smelling of old wood and forgotten dreams. Each new environment, a new world. Does it adapt? Does it change its very nature, its texture, its color, becoming one with its surroundings, a chameleon of the lost world? You see it nestled now, in its chosen sanctuary, still quiet, a tiny textile hermit. What if, you muse, these vanishing socks are not lost at all, but are, in fact, on a pilgrimage, a journey to a sacred place only they know. A sock Shangri-La. It's a whimsical thought, almost absurd, yet it brings a soft smile to your lips. You picture them, not as victims of household chaos, but as dedicated pilgrims, undertaking a solemn, silent trek. What could be their Mecca, the legendary Great Lint Ball in the sky? Or perhaps a hidden portal to another dimension, a dimension where socks reign supreme, where mismatched pairs are celebrated, and where the tyranny of the foot is but a distant, fading memory. You consider the possibility that they are drawn by a sound, a vibration, something beyond human hearing. The house, you know, is full of such things. The thrum of pipes, the electrical hum within the walls, the subtle resonance of the earth itself. Maybe socks are uniquely attuned to these frequencies, and one particular frequency, a siren song of sorts, calls them away. You imagine a sock lying still, then its fibers begin to quiver, to resonate with this unheard music, and it's compelled, not by will but by an undeniable physical law, to move towards the source. It's less of an escape, then, and more of an alignment, a falling into place. This first departure, it's a profound act, isn't it? Even for something as mundane as a sock, it's a step into the void, and the fact that they don't write home, well, that deepens the mystery, doesn't it? If it were a simple misplacement, a temporary separation, wouldn't there be some sign, some attempt at communication? But no, the silence is absolute, as if once they cross that threshold, the old world, the world of feet and laundry, simply ceases to exist for them. Or perhaps they find that words, our words, are inadequate to describe where they've gone, what they've become. You let your mind drift further into this initial moment. Is there a specific catalyst, a particular alignment of household energies? A moment when the veil between worlds thins, just enough for a determined, or perhaps simply curious, sock to slip through? You picture the laundry room again. the air thick with the recent memory of the dryer's heat. A sock lies on the cool tile floor, dropped in transit. The door to the undersink cupboard is ajar, a sliver of profound darkness. And the sock, you imagine, feels it. A cool breath from that darkness, a whisper of possibility. It's not fear it feels, but a strange, compelling curiosity. A sense of destiny, perhaps, a destiny that doesn't involve a foot. What if they're not vanishing, but evolving? You ponder this. What if that journey into the unknown is a metamorphosis? The sock, as you know it, ceases to be, and something new emerges from the experience. Perhaps they shed their old, knitted skin and become something else entirely. A sentient dust bunny, a whisper in the pipes, a patch of unusually resilient mold in a forgotten corner. It's a bizarre image, this transformation, but in the soft logic of a mind drifting to sleep, it has a certain appeal. The mundane becoming magical, the lost becoming something else. The silence, then, the lack of correspondence, makes a different kind of sense. How do you write a postcard when you are no longer a sock? When you have transcended sockness, what address would you even use? To my former owner, care of the sock drawer that no longer defines me? It's almost comical. You think of the sheer number of them. Every household, it seems, has its own collection of singletons, its own quiet testament to these mysterious departures. It's a global phenomenon, this exodus of the socks. Are they coordinating? Is there a grand, unspoken plan? You imagine tiny, colorful flags, unseen by human eyes, marking safe houses and pathways on this subterranean sock railroad. A network of escape routes leading where? That remains the central, tantalizing question. Perhaps the first departure is an accident, a simple tumble, a fall into a forgotten space. But the staying gone, the not returning, that feels deliberate, that feels like a choice. Or, if not a choice, then acceptance of a new reality. A sock finds itself behind the radiator, a warm, dusty, surprisingly comfortable niche, and it thinks, in its sock way, actually, this isn't so bad. No more sweaty feet, no more tumbling in the infernal machine, just peace and dust. Lots of dust. Maybe it's that simple, the allure of comfortable oblivion. You let your mind play with the idea of portals, not just physical gaps, but actual shimmering doorways that only socks can perceive. They flicker into existence for brief moments in the dark corners under the furniture. Inside the washing machine itself during a particularly vigorous spin cycle. A brief window to elsewhere. And the sock, sensing its opportunity, makes a dash, or perhaps a gentle, unhurried glide towards it. And then, pop, gone. To a place where the colors are brighter, the textures are softer, and the concept of pairs is laughably outdated. Could it be that they are sensitive to emotional atmospheres, you wonder? If a house is filled with tension, with unspoken anxieties, do the socks, absorbing these subtle energies, decide to seek a more tranquil environment? Are they tiny, textile empaths making a quiet protest by simply removing themselves? It's a strange thought to attribute such sensitivity to a piece of knitting, yet, in the dreamy landscape of your mind, it doesn't seem entirely impossible. They are, after all, so close to us, sharing our intimate spaces, our daily routines. Perhaps they absorb more than we realize. The soft, philosophical prompt that drifts into your mind is this: is true freedom found in escape or in the transformation of one's perception of confinement? Are the socks truly escaping, or are they simply finding a new way to exist within the boundaries of their world? A way that feels like freedom to them? You don't have an answer, of course. It's just a thought to turn over, like a smooth, cool stone in your palm. You picture a very old sock, a patriarch or matriarch of its kind, wise in the ways of the household. It has seen countless cycles, felt the tread of generations, and one day it imparts its wisdom to a younger, more restless sock. There is a place, it might whisper, its threads worn thin with age, a place where the hum of the dryer is a distant memory, and the scent of feet is unknown. Seek the narrow path, the forgotten way. And so, the tradition is passed down, the legend of the escape route, the promise of the sock beyond. The bizarre image that surfaces now is of a sock slowly, deliberately, unraveling itself. Thread by thread, it deconstructs its own form until it's nothing but a pile of loose yarn. And then the individual threads, now free, waft away on the air currents, tiny independent explorers, each seeking its own destiny. Some might find their way into a bird's nest, others might become part of the great unseen tapestry of household dust, a sort of textile apotheosis. No longer a sock, but pure potential, and the open-ended question that hangs in the air, soft and unanswered. If a sock could leave a message, just one, before it vanished forever, what would it say and to whom would it address it? Would it be a lament, a boast, a simple, "I'm okay," or perhaps just a single enigmatic symbol, a loop of thread, a knot of meaning that only another sock could truly understand? You imagine the very first sock to ever make this journey. A pioneer. What courage it must have taken, or what profound despair, or what irresistible curiosity. There were no legends then, no whispered tales of the lands beyond the laundry basket. Just the raw, untamed unknown. You see it, a rough-hewn, primitive sock, perhaps made of coarse animal hair, taking that first hesitant wriggle into the darkness beneath a primitive bed of straw and furs. And with that one small act, a new possibility was born into the world of socks. A path was opened. You think about the moment just before the departure. The sock is there among its brethren. Does it feel different? Does it look around at the others? The ones content in their matched pairs, their predictable future of foot and shoe and drawer, and feel a sense underscore of pity, or perhaps a touch of envy for their uncomplicated existence? Or is it simply an inner knowing, a quiet certainty that its path lies elsewhere? You picture it, a still point in the swirling chaos of laundry day, its decision made, its fate embraced, the quiet allure of the unknown crevice. You return to that. It's not just a space, it's a promise of solitude, of mystery, of a different set of rules. In that crevice, the sock is king or queen of its tiny domain, no longer a servant to the foot, but a monarch of the dust bunnies, a ruler of the lost paperclips. It's a tempting proposition, isn't it? To trade a life of utilitarian purpose for one of quiet, sovereign obscurity, and the beckoning void beyond the laundry basket. It sounds almost cosmic, as if the laundry basket is a sort of event horizon, and once crossed in the wrong direction, you're pulled into another universe. A universe where the laws of pairing no longer apply, where singlehood is the norm, and where socks float freely, like colorful nebulae in a soft, cottony cosmos. You smile at this. It's a comforting thought, really, that they're not just lost and alone, but part of some grand alternative sock reality. You consider the textures involved in this first departure. The smooth, yielding plastic of the laundry basket's edge, the slight catch of a loose thread as it hooks onto a splinter of wood, the cool, surprising dampness of a spot on the floor where something spilled and was never quite wiped up. Each sensation, a tiny milestone on its journey. You imagine the sock as a kind of sensory sponge, absorbing these new experiences, its fibers tingling with the novelty of it all. What if some socks are natural explorers, born with a wanderlust woven into their very fabric? Just as some humans are drawn to climb mountains or sail oceans, perhaps some socks are inherently driven to explore the hidden geographies of the home. They are the Edmund Hillarys, the Amelia Earharts of the sock world. Their disappearance is not a tragedy, but the inevitable outcome of their adventurous spirit. And they don't write home because they're too busy charting new territories, mapping the under-refrigerator caverns, or establishing diplomatic relations with the silverfish. You let your focus soften, the image of the departing sock becoming a little fuzzy, a little more dreamlike. It's less about the specific sock now, and more about the idea of departure, the essence of vanishing. It's a gentle drift, a fading away rather than a sharp, defined event, like a watercolor painting left out in the rain, its edges blurring, its colors softening and running together, until it's just a beautiful, indistinct impression of what it once was. That's how the sock leaves. not with a bang, but with a whisper, a sigh, a slow dissolve into the background hum of the world. And as you drift, you wonder if these departing socks leave a tiny piece of themselves behind. A scent, a thread, an echo, a subtle reminder for the one left behind, the lonely partner in the drawer. Is that why the single sock sometimes feels incomplete? Not just because it's missing its mate, but because it senses that faint, lingering trace of the departed, a ghostly presence that whispers of other possibilities, other worlds, just beyond the reach of the familiar. The first departure you conclude as your thoughts begin to slow and deepen is an act of quiet magic, an everyday enchantment. It's a tiny tear in the fabric of the mundane, revealing a glimpse of something else, something wonderfully, inexplicably other. And the reason they don't write home? Well, perhaps they found a place where correspondence is unnecessary, where understanding is woven into the very air they now inhabit. A silent, shared knowing. Or maybe, just maybe, they're waiting for us to join them, to follow the trail of lost buttons and forgotten dreams into the quiet mystery that lies just beneath the surface of our ordinary lives. But for now, their silence is part of their charm, part of their allure, a soft, unanswered question that invites us to wonder and to dream. You find your mind, unmoored now, drifting away from that initial act of departure, that first brave or perhaps accidental step into the unknown. It floats, like a dandelion seed on a warm afternoon breeze, towards the destination. If they vanish, they must go somewhere, and so you begin to imagine this other place, this lost realm, this hidden dimension where the missing socks convene. What is it like? Who or what else resides there? The topography of this place, you sense, isn't fixed like the landscapes you know. It's more fluid, more responsive to thought and memory. Perhaps it's a place built from the collective unconscious of lost things. You see undulating hills made of soft forgotten sweaters, their colors muted and blended like a watercolor painting left in gentle rain. Rivers of tangled shoelaces meander through valleys of mismatched gloves, their currents slow and thoughtful. And the sky, you imagine, isn't blue, but a constantly shifting tapestry of all the colors that have ever faded from fabric, a soft, perpetual twilight. Is it a silent realm? Or does it have its own subtle symphony? You lean towards the latter. The gentle rustle of countless fibers, a sound like a forest of cottonwood trees in a light wind. The occasional, soft clink of a lost button rolling down a linty slope. The faint, almost imperceptible hum of static electricity, the lifeblood of this textile kingdom. It's not a noisy place, but it's alive with sound. A soundscape that would be incredibly soothing, you think, a kind of white noise for the soul. You wonder if other misplaced items find their way here. Not just socks, but all the little things that slip through the cracks of our world. The single earrings whose partners have long since been mourned. The pens that run out of ink at crucial moments and are then carelessly discarded. The keys to doors that no longer exist. Do they all coexist in this gentle limbo? You picture a particularly ornate, slightly tarnished button, perhaps from a Victorian waistcoat holding court, telling stories of its former life to a captivated audience of attentive, colorful socks. They gather around it, like students around a wise, old professor, absorbing its tales of a bygone era. This imagined topography, you realize, might be layered. Different strata for different kinds of lostness. Perhaps the socks that vanish from the dryer inhabit a warm, fluffy, slightly humid region, full of gentle steam vents and soft, pillowy dunes of lint. While the socks that slip behind the radiator find themselves in a drier, dustier landscape, with canyons carved by currents of warm air and caves formed in the lee of forgotten cobwebs. Each sock finds the niche that best suits the manner of its departure, a kind of ecological sorting of the lost. You entertain the idea that this realm isn't entirely separate from our own, but rather, it interpenetrates it, existing in the unseen spaces, the liminal zones, the space between the atoms of your own world. So, a lost sock isn't miles away, but rather, it's vibrating at a slightly different frequency, just out of phase with your perception, If you could only tune your senses correctly, you might glimpse it. Nestled comfortably in the quantum foam, perhaps enjoying a tiny subatomic cup of tea. It's a playful thought, this idea of a parallel sock dimension existing just beyond the veil of the mundane. And what of the inhabitants? Are they changed by their arrival in this new place? You suspect they are. Perhaps they shed their individual identities, their brand names, their histories of wear. They become part of a larger collective sock consciousness. No longer a left Nike sports sock or a right Argyle dress sock, but simply sock. Part of a vast, interconnected network of fibered beings. You imagine them communicating not with words, but with subtle shifts in color, with gentle undulations of their fabric, a kind of textile telepathy. Could this realm have a name? You try out a few in your mind. The great beyond the basket, Lintopia, the land of unpaired souls. None of them seem quite right. Perhaps it doesn't need a name. Perhaps names are a human preoccupation, a way of boxing things in, and this place, by its very nature, resists such confinement. It simply is. You ponder the philosophical prompt. If a place is unmapped and unseen by most, does it truly exist, or is its existence dependent on the belief of the few who can imagine it? Are you, by simply thinking about this lost realm, helping to sustain it, to give it form and substance? It's a thought that makes you feel a certain responsibility, a gentle custodianship of this imagined world. You must furnish it with care, with soft edges and comforting shadows. The bizarre image that floats into your awareness now is of a library within this lost realm. But the books have no words. Instead, their pages are made of different fabrics, each telling a story through texture, color, and the faint, lingering scent of its former life. A velvet page might recount an evening at the opera. A rough, denim page might tell of a day spent hiking in the mountains. And the socks, you see them, gently turning these pages with their soft, toeless ends, reading the histories contained within the threads. It's a library of sensory experience, a repository of tactile memories. And the open-ended question, soft as a sigh, if you could send a message to the inhabitants of this lost realm, what would you ask them about their world? And what one small forgotten item from your own life would you wish to find there, waiting for you? A specific lost toy from childhood? A letter you wish you'd kept? You consider the governance of such a place. Is there a leader, a council of elder socks, or is it a gentle anarchy, a place where rules are unnecessary because harmony is the natural state? You prefer the latter. A place free from the hierarchies and competitions of the human world. A place where every lost thing is valued simply for being. You imagine them, the socks, drifting in slow, contented currents, occasionally bumping gently against a lost button or a stray paperclip, an exchange of silent, amicable greetings. What if this realm has an entrance, or several entrances scattered throughout our world, disguised as ordinary household features? The plug hole of a bathtub, when the water spirals down just so, might momentarily become a shimmering vortex. The dark space at the back of a rarely opened cupboard could be a stable gateway. And the washing machine, of course, during its most vigorous spin cycle, might be a veritable grand central station for departing socks, its rhythmic rumbling a call to adventure. You see them, queuing patiently, perhaps with tiny knitted suitcases waiting for the opportune moment to slip through. You think about the light source in this lost realm. If it's not sunshine, what is it? Perhaps it's bioluminescent. The socks themselves and the other lost items emit a soft, gentle glow, their colors subtly intensified. Or maybe the light emanates from the great lint ball you imagined earlier, a distant, gentle sun in this textile cosmos pulsing with a soft, warm energy. It would be a world of perpetual twilight, a world perfectly conducive to rest and quiet contemplation. No harsh glares, no stark shadows, just a diffuse, comforting luminescence. The air, or whatever passes for atmosphere there, must be incredibly soft. You imagine breathing it in, a sensation like inhaling the finest cashmere, scented faintly with lavender and old books. It would be an atmosphere that soothes, that calms, that that gently erases the worries and anxieties of the former world. No wonder they don't write home. They're too busy being blissed out. You wonder if memories of their former lives persist in this realm. Do they recall the feel of a foot, the scent of a shoe, the camaraderie of a matched pair? Or are those memories gently laundered away upon arrival, leaving them with a clean slate, a fresh start? Perhaps traces remain, like faint watermarks on old paper, but they no longer carry any emotional weight. They are simply part of a distant, half-forgotten story. There was a time, one sock might muse to another, when I was attached. A strange concept, isn't it? Could it be that this lost realm is also a place of healing, where damaged socks, socks with holes, socks stretched out of shape are slowly mended, their fibers reknitted by unseen, gentle hands, or perhaps by the collective goodwill of the realm itself? They arrive weary and worn, and gradually they are restored to a state of pristine, comfortable wholeness. It's a comforting image, this idea of a sock sanatorium. You try to picture the scale of it. Is it a small, cozy pocket dimension, or is it vast, perhaps infinite, constantly expanding to accommodate the endless influx of lost items? If every lost sock from every household in the world ends up there, it would have to be immense. A universe of softness. You imagine explorers, brave sockonauts, venturing into the uncharted territories of this realm, discovering new continents of forgotten blankets, oceans of unraveled scarves. What if time flows differently there, slower perhaps? Or maybe it's not linear at all, but circular or spiral. A day in our world could be an eternity in the lost realm, or vice versa. This could explain their silence. By the time they thought to send a postcard, eons might have passed for them, and the world they left behind would be unrecognizably ancient. Or perhaps in their perception, only a moment has passed, and they're still just settling in, not yet ready to communicate. You let your mind wander to the edges of this realm. What lies beyond it? Is there a boundary? And if so, what form does it take? A shimmering curtain of energy, a dense fog of pure forgetfulness? Or does it simply fade out into something else? Perhaps it borders other, similar realms, the dimension of lost car keys, the astral plane of misplaced television remotes, a whole multiverse of the misplaced. It's a dizzying, yet amusing thought. You consider the possibility that this realm is not a physical place, but a state of mind, a socken state, if you will. When a sock vanishes, it has simply achieved a higher level of consciousness, a state of perfect contentment and detachment from the material world. It's still there, physically, perhaps tucked under your sofa, but its essence, its sock soul, has ascended. This would certainly explain why you can't find it, even when you search diligently. You're looking for a physical object, but it has become pure being. The whispers from this lost realm, you try to hear them, not with your ears, but with your intuition, that soft inner voice. What are they saying? Perhaps they're not words at all, but feelings, a sense of peace, a sense of release, a gentle invitation to let go of the need to find, to control, to understand everything. Just let it be. Let the lost be lost, and trust that they are okay, perhaps more than okay. You imagine a sock, newly arrived in this realm, looking around in wonder. It sees the soft hills, the gentle light, the other serene inhabitants, and a feeling of profound relief washes over it. This, it thinks, in its simple sock way, is where I was always meant to be. No more fear of the washing machine, no more dread of the smelly gym shoe. Just an eternity of soft, quiet existence. It's a sock paradise. You think about the textures again. The dominant texture of this realm must be softness. Every kind of softness imaginable. The yielding softness of old cotton, the springy softness of wool, the slick softness of silk, perhaps from a lost scarf that has integrated itself. It would be a world that caresses, that comforts, that never chafes or irritates. A world designed for ultimate relaxation. Are there native inhabitants of this realm, besides the lost items from our world? Perhaps there are beings made of pure lint, ancient, wise, and amorphous, who act as guides or caretakers. Or maybe the realm itself is sentient, a vast, gentle consciousness that welcomes and nurtures all who arrive. You like the idea of a benevolent, conscious environment, actively looking after its lost charges. What if our dreams are a kind of temporary visa to this lost realm? When we sleep, our minds wander, and perhaps sometimes they brush against the edges of this place. We catch glimpses of the soft landscapes. We sense the peaceful atmosphere. But when we wake, the memories are hazy, like the details of a half-forgotten dream. Maybe the feeling of profound rest we sometimes get from a good night's sleep is partly due to our souls having spent a little time in the land of lost socks, recharging in its gentle energies. You let the image of this realm solidify, not as a concrete place, but as a feeling, a possibility, a soft counterpoint to the hard edges and sharp realities of the waking world. It's a place woven from gentle thoughts, from quiet acceptance, from the beauty of things let go. And the socks, they are its citizens, its guardians, its happy, silent inhabitants. They have found their haven, their place of perfect, unpaired peace. And in imagining it for them, you find a certain peace yourself. A willingness to accept the small, gentle mysteries that surround you, the quiet enigmas that ask not for solutions, but for a smile and a soft, wondering thought. The topography, you decide, is not just about hills and rivers, but about emotional landscapes too. There are glades of quiet joy, where socks that were once part of happy memories gather and bask in a warm, nostalgic glow. There are shaded groves of gentle melancholy, where items associated with loss or sadness can rest and be soothed. It's a realm that caters to the emotional residue that clings to lost things, allowing it to dissipate slowly, peacefully. You picture a festival in this realm, a festival of fibers perhaps. Socks of all colors and patterns engage in slow, graceful dances, their movements creating swirling patterns of light and shadow. Lost buttons are used as musical instruments, tapped gently to create soft, rhythmic clicks, and the air is filled with the scent of clean laundry, but a kind of idealized, ethereal clean laundry, the platonic ideal of freshness. It's a celebration of their shared existence, their collective journey from the mundane to the magical. What if the reason they don't write home is because they're too busy creating? This lost realm isn't just a place of rest, but also a place of immense creativity. They weave new patterns, new textures, new forms, using the threads of their being. They are artists, and their medium is themselves. They create vast communal tapestries that tell the story of their world, intricate sculptures of knotted yarn, symphonies of rustling fabric. They have transcended mere sockness and become creators of beauty in their own right. And that, you think, is a rather wonderful reason for their silence. They are simply too engrossed in their art. Your thoughts, like a slow meandering river, now turn from the place itself, this soft and gentle realm of the lost, to the nature of their silence. Why no word? If they have found such a haven, such a sock utopia, wouldn't they want to share the good news? Or at least reassure the ones left behind? This silence, you feel, is a key, a clue to the deeper nature of their vanishing. It's not just a physical absence, it's a communicative one, and that, somehow, feels more profound. You contemplate the idea that their journey has rendered human concerns and human language simply irrelevant. Imagine a deep-sea fish living its life in the crushing pressures and absolute darkness of the ocean trench. If it could, for a moment, comprehend the world of sunshine and air and land-dwelling creatures, what could it possibly say? Its experiences, its very mode of being, are so alien that our words would be like trying to catch water in a sieve. Perhaps it's the same for the departed socks. They have moved so far beyond the conceptual framework of feet, laundry, drawers, and pairs that our language is no longer a viable tool for them. What if they have developed a new language? Not of words, but of something else. Perhaps they communicate through subtle shifts in static charge, creating complex patterns of attraction and repulsion that convey intricate meanings. Or maybe it's a language of scent, a nuanced olfactory vocabulary that we, with our comparatively dull noses, could never decipher. You imagine two socks, nestled in their lost realm, having a profound philosophical discussion through the emission of faint, almost imperceptible odors, one smelling of lavender and contentment, the other of old books and existential curiosity. It's a whimsical thought, but it underscores the potential chasm between their new reality and our own. Could it be that their new existence is one of such pure, unadulterated being that the very concept of communication as we understand it, an exchange of information between separate entities, is obsolete? Perhaps they have merged into a collective consciousness, as you mused before. In such a state, there is no other to communicate to. There is only the shared experience, the unified awareness. To send a postcard would be like your own left hand sending a note to your right hand. Unnecessary, slightly absurd. You consider the possibility of censorship, a more playful, almost conspiratorial idea. What if there are gatekeepers in this lost realm, stern old woolen argyle socks, perhaps, who forbid contact with the outer world? They wouldn't understand, these guardians might declare, their fibers bristling with authority. Let them continue in their ignorance. It is for the best. Our peace must be preserved. So, the newly arrived socks, full of initial intentions to send word back, are gently but firmly dissuaded. It's for your own good, the elders would murmur, patting them with a comforting, slightly dusty toe. Or perhaps the journey itself changes them in a fundamental way. The passage through the portal, the adaptation to the new environment. Maybe it erases the memories necessary for communication. They might retain a vague sense of a before time, but the specifics, the names, the addresses, the very desire to write home, simply fade, like colors in strong sunlight. They are not being deliberately silent. They have simply forgotten who they would write to, or why. It's a gentle amnesia, a kind of protective mechanism that allows them to fully embrace their new existence without the burden of past attachments. You let your mind drift to the idea of the unsent letter. How many such letters exist in our own world? Written but never mailed, full of thoughts and feelings that remain unexpressed. Perhaps the socks are champions of the unsent letter. They have profound thoughts, beautiful descriptions of their new world, heartfelt messages for their former partners, but they simply don't send them. Maybe the act of composing the thought is enough, or perhaps they lack the infrastructure. Where does one find a tiny sock-sized pen and a stamp valid for interdimensional mail? The practicalities are, admittedly, daunting. The soft philosophical prompt that arises now is this: is silence always an absence, or can it be a presence in itself, a form of communication richer than words? You think of the silences in music, the pauses that give rhythm and meaning. You think of the comfortable silence between old friends, where words are unnecessary. Perhaps the sock silence is of this nature, a meaningful silence, a silence that speaks of contentment, of peace, of a reality so complete that it requires no external validation. The bizarre image that comes to you is of a sock attempting to use a dandelion seed as a sort of carrier pigeon. It carefully attaches a minuscule, almost invisible thread, spun from its own being, to the fluffy parachute of the seed. On this thread, it has encoded a message, not in letters, but in a series of intricate knots and weaves, a tactile poem about its journey. It then releases a dandelion seed into a gentle breeze, hoping it will find its way back to its former garden, its former home. You see these tiny hopeful messengers drifting through the summer sky, most of them going unnoticed, their silent stories unread. It's a poignant image full of a delicate, almost heartbreaking effort, and the open-ended question that whispers in your mind: if one sock did manage to send a message, a single, universally understandable symbol, what would that symbol be? And how would we recognize it as a communication from the lost? A perfect, tiny rainbow, a single, unblemished feather appearing on your pillow. You ponder the emotional state of a sock that has just crossed over. Is it overwhelmed, disoriented, or is there an immediate sense of belonging, of coming home? If it's the latter, the desire to communicate with the old world might be quickly superseded by the sheer joy and wonder of the new. It's like a child on their first day at an amusement park. The thought of calling home to describe the Ferris wheel is quickly forgotten in the excitement of the roller coaster. What if their silence is an act of kindness? They know that their former partners, the single socks left behind, are pining for them. To send a message saying, "I'm in a wonderful place, and I'm never coming back," might be perceived as cruel, a confirmation of their permanent abandonment. Perhaps their silence is a way of allowing the left-behinds to maintain a sliver of hope, however faint, that one day they might be reunited. A gentle, if perhaps misguided, form of compassion. You consider the sheer effort involved. Imagine you're a sock. You have no hands, no opposable thumbs. Your primary mode of locomotion is a gentle wriggle, or perhaps a static, cling-assisted glide. How do you operate a pen? How do you type on a keyboard? Even if you found a way to dictate your message to a friendly, literate dust bunny, the logistical challenges are immense. Maybe they want to write, but they simply can't. Their silence is born not of indifference, but of profound physical limitation. You almost feel a pang of sympathy for their plight. All these thoughts, all these experiences, trapped within their knitted forms, with no easy outlet. Then there's the idea of a different kind of correspondence, not letters, but something more subtle. What if they send messages through dreams? You, the owner, have a vivid dream about a landscape of soft rolling hills made of colorful fabric. You wake up feeling strangely peaceful. Was that a postcard from your lost sock? A glimpse into its new reality, transmitted mind to mind during the unguarded hours of sleep? It's a lovely thought, that they are still connected, still communicating, just not in the way you expect. You let your thoughts drift back to the idea of their new language. If it's a language of texture, or color, or scent, then perhaps they are communicating constantly, but we are simply not equipped to perceive it. The faint, almost undetectable change in the ambient dust patterns in your room, the subtle shift in the way the light falls on an old sweater. Could these be messages? Are they writing novels in the dust, composing symphonies in the shadows, and we, in our sensory arrogance, are completely oblivious? It's a humbling thought. What if their journey is one of such profound internal transformation that the very idea of an external world, and thus the need to communicate with it, dissolves? They are on an inward journey, exploring the vast, uncharted territories of their own sock consciousness. To them, the lost realm isn't a place, but a state of enlightenment. And enlightened beings, as a rule, are not overly concerned with sending postcards. They are too busy being. You recall the image of the sock unraveling itself, its threads becoming one with the universe. If that's their ultimate destiny, then communication in the traditional sense becomes impossible. How does a thread write a letter? It simply becomes part of a larger tapestry. Its message is its integration, its surrender to the whole. That's a very Zen concept for a sock, you muse, but it has a certain elegant finality. Perhaps their silence is a test. They are waiting to see if we, the left-behinds, can learn to understand their new state of being without explicit instruction. Can we intuit their contentment? Can we feel their peace across the dimensional divide? Maybe, if we quiet our own minds enough, if we listen with our hearts instead of our ears, we can hear their silent message. All is well. Let go. Be at peace. You consider the possibility that they do send messages, but these messages are intercepted. By whom? And why? This adds a touch of mild, sleepy paranoia to your thoughts. Are there rogue dust bunnies? Disgruntled ex-buttons who have formed a kind of interdimensional postal blockade, preventing any word from the lost realm from reaching us? What would be their motive? Jealousy? A desire to keep the secrets of the lost realm to themselves? It's a silly, almost cartoonish idea, but it makes you smile. The thought of a villainous lint ball twirling its dusty mustache, cackling as it confiscates a tiny heartfelt note from a sock to its beloved former foot. The nature of their silence, you begin to feel, is not a void, but a space filled with unspoken things. It's like the quiet in a library, not empty, but pregnant with stories, with knowledge, with the potential for discovery. Their silence invites you to fill it with your own imagination, your own interpretations. It's an interactive mystery, and your thoughts are part of the solution. You wonder if they ever feel a pang of nostalgia for the old world, a fleeting desire to feel the warmth of a human foot again, or the rough and tumble camaraderie of the laundry cycle. And if they do, does that feeling manifest as a kind of silent sigh? A ripple in the fabric of their lost realm that, perhaps, a particularly sensitive single sock left behind might perceive as a moment of unexplained sadness? A brief, ghostly touch from beyond the veil. What if their communication is simply too slow for us? They operate on a different timescale, as you considered before. A single thought, for them, might take years to fully form and transmit. Their letters are epic poems, written over centuries, and we, with our fleeting lifespans, are simply not around long enough to receive the full message. We might catch a single word, a single syllable, which, out of context, makes no sense. Or perhaps their messages are all around us, disguised as ordinary things. That oddly shaped cloud that looks a bit like a knitted booty? A message. The way the wind rustles the leaves in a particular rhythm. A message. The specific pattern of cracks on a dry patch of earth. A complex communique. They are using the language of the world itself, a language we have forgotten how to read. They are not silent, we are simply deaf to their chosen medium. You think about the partners left behind. The single socks in the drawer, their solitude. Do they ever try to send messages to the lost ones? Do they emit faint sock scents of longing and remembrance, hoping they will cross the dimensional divide? You imagine a kind of psychic connection between paired socks, a thread that remains even after one has vanished. And perhaps, through this thread, wordless understanding flows. The lost sock knows it is missed. The remaining sock senses, somehow, that its partner is okay. No postcards needed. Just a quiet, intuitive link. The silence, then, becomes less about a lack of information and more about a different kind of information. It's a silence that speaks of transformation, of peace, of a reality so different from our own that words fail. It asks not for answers, but for acceptance. It invites not a search, but a letting go. And in that letting go, perhaps, is a different kind of finding. A finding of peace in the mystery, a comfort in the unknown. The socks, in their wisdom, are teaching us the beauty of the unsaid, the eloquence of the void. They have simply moved beyond the need for mail. Your thoughts, like a gentle tide, now recede from the mysteries of the lost realm and the puzzle of their silence, and turn towards those left behind. The solitary sock, the singleton in the drawer, its quiet existence a constant, soft reminder of a partnership dissolved, a journey untaken. You find yourself wondering about its inner life, its untold stories, its unique perspective on this whole curious affair. You picture it, lying there in the drawer, surrounded by neatly folded pairs, each a smug, self-contained unit. Does it feel like an outsider, an anomaly, or has it, over time, carved out its own identity, its own sense of purpose, separate from its missing counterpart? You imagine it, perhaps a sock of a particularly vibrant color, standing out amongst the more muted pairs, a splash of individuality in a world of conformity, or maybe it's a pale, unassuming sock, trying to blend in to not draw attention to its unpaired status. What stories does it tell itself about its missing partner? Does it imagine a grand adventure, a heroic escape? Or does it fear the worst? A tragic demise in the dark corners of the laundry room, a victim of the dreaded lint trap monster. You suspect it's a mix of both, hope and resignation, woven together like the threads of its own being. It might spend its quiet hours in the drawer composing epic poems about the bravery of its lost twin, or quiet elegies mourning its absence. Does it feel a phantom limb, so to speak? A lingering sensation of its other half? You remember reading about how amputees can sometimes still feel their missing limbs. Perhaps it's the same for socks. A faint warmth where its partner used to be, a subtle pressure, a ghostly echo of shared experiences. The memory of being folded together, of tumbling in the dryer side by side, of nestling in the same shoe. These sensations, perhaps, are its only remaining connection, You consider the possibility that the surviving sock becomes a kind of oracle, a sage. Having experienced loss, having lived with incompleteness, it gains a certain wisdom, a deeper understanding of the world. Other socks in the drawer, the still paired ones, might come to it for advice, for comfort. Old Stripey, they might whisper, my partner has become a little frayed around the edges. What should I do? And Old Stripey, from the wisdom of its solitude, offers gentle counsel. It has seen the fragility of togetherness, and it values connection all the more for it. What if the single sock becomes a keeper of memories? It holds not only its own recollections of its partner, but also the collective memory of all the lost socks from that household. It's a living archive, a silent historian of the departed. Each loose thread, each faded patch of color, a testament to a story of vanishing. You see it in the quiet darkness of the drawer, its fibers humming with these remembered lives, a tiny textile Bodleian library of the lost. The soft philosophical prompt that drifts into your awareness is this: does solitude inevitably lead to loneliness, or can it be a path to a richer inner life, a deeper self-understanding? The single sock in its enforced solitude, is it diminished, or is it in some way more fully itself than it ever was as part of a pair? You ponder the idea that its individuality, once subsumed in a duo, now has the space to blossom. The bizarre image that surfaces is of the single sock learning to perform complex origami with its own body. It folds itself into intricate shapes, a tiny boat, a delicate flower, a miniature swan, as a way of passing the time, or perhaps as a form of self-expression, a silent textile ballet performed in the confines of the drawer. It's a display of resilience, of finding beauty and purpose even in its aloneness. Other socks watch in quiet admiration, perhaps a little envious of its creative flair, and the open-ended question, soft and gentle. If a single sock could make one wish, would it wish for the return of its partner, or for the wisdom to understand why it left, or perhaps for a new and different kind of companionship? Its answer, you feel, would reveal much about its character, its journey through solitude. You think about its relationship with the other single socks in the household. Is there a society of singletons? A support group that meets in a forgotten corner of the linen closet? They gather, perhaps, to share stories, to offer comfort, to reassure each other that they are not alone in their aloneness. You imagine them, a motley crew of different colors, patterns, and ages, united by their shared experience of loss. There's a certain dignity to this imagined gathering, a quiet strength in their collective solitude. Does the single sock ever feel a sense of guilt? Was it something I did? Was I too rough in the tumble dry? Did I not appreciate my partner enough when they were here? These human-like anxieties you project onto it, but it feels plausible. The search for meaning and loss often turns inward. Perhaps it replays its last moments with its partner, searching for clues, for a reason, for something it could have done differently. A futile but deeply understandable exercise. Or, conversely, does it feel a sense of liberation? A quiet relief? Perhaps its partner was a bit overbearing, a bit too prone to developing holes in the toe, a bit too smelly. Now it has the whole drawer space to itself, metaphorically speaking. It can stretch out, relax, without having to accommodate another. It's a slightly heretical thought, this idea of a sock relieved by its partner's disappearance, but in the complex world of relationships, even sock relationships, it's not entirely out of the question. You consider its interactions with the human world. When you, the owner, rummage through the drawer and pick it up, then sigh and put it back, realizing it has no mate, what does it feel? A pang of disappointment? A flare of hope quickly extinguished? Or just a weary resignation? Here we go again, it might think. The daily reminder of my unpaired state. You almost want to apologize to it, to all the single socks you've ever unthinkingly discarded or relegated to the rag bag. What if the single sock takes on a new role? It can no longer fulfill its primary function as part of a pair for your feet. So it finds a new purpose. It becomes a duster for delicate surfaces, a polisher of shoes, a makeshift puppet for a child's entertainment, A warm, soft bed for a very small, very appreciative mouse, a whimsical image that makes you smile. It adapts. It finds new ways to be useful, to be valued. Its life is not over, just different. This resilience you find is rather admirable. You imagine it observing the paired socks with a kind of detached curiosity. Their squabbles, you're taking up too much space, their affectionate nuzzling, their shared anxieties about laundry day. It sees it all with the wisdom of an outsider, an elder statesman. It has been there, done that, and now it exists on a different plane, a plane of quiet observation. Perhaps it even offers them cryptic advice like a sock Yoda. Fear the bleach, you must not. Embrace the spin cycle, you will. Does it dream? And if so, what are the dreams of a single sock? Does it dream of its lost partner, of joyous reunions in a field of freshly laundered towels? Or does it dream of flying, of escaping the confines of the drawer and soaring out into the world? A free agent, beholden to no foot. You hope its dreams are comforting, full of soft textures and gentle adventures. You think about the possibility of it forming a new bond, not with another sock of its own kind necessarily, but perhaps with a different lost item. A single glove, perhaps, or a lonely scarf. They find solace in their shared incompleteness, forming an unconventional but deeply meaningful companionship. A misfit toy alliance in the back of the closet. They understand each other's stories without needing words. What if the single sock becomes a philosopher? Spending its long, quiet hours in the drawer, it contemplates the great mysteries of existence, the nature of pairing, the meaning of loss, the possibility of other dimensions. It develops complex theories, which it might try to communicate by subtly shifting its position in the drawer, creating patterns that, alas, go unnoticed by its human owner. You see it, a tiny woolen Descartes, thinking, I am worn, therefore I am. The texture of its existence, you imagine, is different from that of a paired sock. There's a certain thinness to it, perhaps, a vulnerability, but also a certain clarity. Without the constant presence of another, its own essence, its own unique pattern and weave becomes more pronounced. It is more intensely itself. You consider the sounds it hears muffled from within the drawer. The distant rumble of the washing machine. Does it trigger a pang of anxiety, a memory of past traumas, or a wistful longing for the adventure it represents? The sound of your footsteps approaching the dresser, anticipation, dread, or just a weary acceptance of the routine? Its world is one of subtle sounds, of quiet creaks and distant hums, a soundscape that shapes its contemplative existence. What if it actively tries to find its partner, not by physical searching, but by sending out psychic signals, threads of longing and hope into the ether? Are you out there, it silently calls. Can you hear me? And perhaps, sometimes, it receives a faint, almost imperceptible echo in return, a flicker of recognition from the lost realm, a reassurance that its partner still exists somewhere. These tiny psychic connections are its lifeline, its reason to keep hoping. You picture it being used as a darning egg, a firm, supportive presence helping to mend other, more fortunate socks. There's a certain poignant irony in this, the incomplete helping to make others whole. It performs its duty with a quiet dignity, its own unmendable loss giving it a gentle empathy for the tears and frays of others. The solitude of the survivor. It's a heavy phrase, but it captures something of its experience. It has survived the separation, the vanishing. It continues. And in that continuation there is a quiet strength, a testament to the resilience of even the smallest, most humble of things. It is a silent monument to the lost, its very existence a commemoration. You think about its eventual fate. Will it be rediscovered years later, at the bottom of a box of old clothes and trigger a faint flicker of memory? Oh, I remember this sock. I always wondered what happened to its partner. Or will it eventually be deemed too old, too worn, too irrevocably single and be discarded? You hope for a gentle end for it, perhaps a quiet retirement in a soft, forgotten corner, where it can dream its sock dreams in peace. Its untold stories. They are woven into its very fabric. Stories of warmth, of comfort, of adventure, however small, of loss, and of quiet endurance. If you could somehow unravel its threads and read them like a scroll, what tales would they tell? Tales of journeys from factory to store, from foot to laundry, from paired to single. A whole sock epic contained within its humble form, and you, in your drifting thoughts, are perhaps catching a few faint whispers of that epic, a few fleeting images from its long and surprisingly rich life, the life of a sock left behind, a quiet hero in the drawer. And so your mind, like a feather finally coming to rest after a long, gentle drift, begins to sense a different kind of message in their continued absence. It's no longer just about the mystery of where they went or why they don't write. Now, you begin to feel a subtle shift in the narrative, a deeper, more resonant understanding that perhaps, just perhaps, their silence is the message. A message of peaceful surrender, of a quiet acceptance of a new form of existence far removed from the familiar world of feet and shoes, of laundry and drawers. You imagine this surrender not as a defeat, but as a kind of enlightenment. The sock, having journeyed through the unknown, having perhaps found the mythical lost realm you envisioned, or simply a quiet forgotten corner, has reached a state of contentment, a profound peace that transcends the need for its former life, its former partner, its former purpose. It has let go, and in letting go, it has found something new, something whole in its own way. This isn't a sad ending, you realize, it's a serene one. Like a river finally reaching the sea, its individual journey merging into something vast and timeless. The sock, too, has merged. Not necessarily into a collective sock consciousness, though that remains a charming possibility, but into a state of being where the old anxieties, the old attachments, simply no longer hold sway. It has unraveled its worries along with perhaps some of its threads. You think of the echoes of unraveled threads. Not just physical threads, but threads of connection, threads of memory, threads of longing. These echoes are not necessarily mournful. They can be gentle, like the fading notes of a beautiful song. They signify something that was, and that was good, but that is now transformed into something else. The unraveling is not destruction, but a reconfiguration, a release of old patterns to make way for new ones. Perhaps the lost socks are sending us a constant, subtle message through their very absence, a message about the beauty of impermanence, the necessity of letting go. We search for them, we mourn their loss, we feel the incompleteness of the single sock left behind. But maybe they are trying to teach us that completeness can be found in unexpected places, that loss can be a doorway to a different kind of understanding. Their silence is a gentle nudge. Look beyond the pair, look beyond the familiar, find the piece in the missing piece. You consider the idea that their new existence is one of pure potentiality. No longer defined by being a sock, they are now free to be anything, or perhaps more accurately, to be part of everything. Like a drop of water rejoining the ocean, they haven't vanished, they've expanded. They've become part of a larger, more fundamental reality. And from that expanded state, the concerns of a single terrestrial foot seem very, very distant. What if their message is simply the pattern they leave behind? The empty space in the drawer, the lingering scent on their former partner, the faint outline in the dust where they once lay. These are not signs of absence, but a kind of negative space art, a sculpture made of what is no longer there. And this sculpture speaks. It speaks of change, of flow, of the constant, quiet transformations happening all around us, all the time, often unnoticed. The soft, philosophical prompt that drifts into your mind now is, can true peace be found without a complete surrender of one's old identity and attachments? Are the socks, in their vanishing, demonstrating a kind of ultimate spiritual discipline, the art of non-attachment, taken to its textile extreme? They don't cling, they release. And in that release they find their sock nirvana. The bizarre image that forms is of a celestial sock constellation. The truly enlightened, truly surrendered socks, upon reaching their final state of peace, don't just reside in a lost realm, they ascend. They become points of soft, gentle light in the night sky of some other dimension, forming patterns that tell the stories of their journeys, visible only to those who know how to look, perhaps other lost items, or particularly sensitive dreamers. You see the Great Argyle, the Little Dipper of lost ankle socks, the Orion's belt of striped companions. It's a beautiful, whimsical end to their earthly toils, and the open-ended question that settles in your thoughts like a final soft sigh. If we were to truly accept the message of the vanishing socks, the message of peaceful surrender and letting go, how would that change the way we look for our own lost things? Not just physical objects, but lost hopes, lost dreams, lost connections. Would we search less frantically and listen more quietly for the echoes they leave behind? You imagine their new form of existence. It's not about doing, it's about being. They don't need to write home because their very state of being is a communication, a testament. They are like ancient trees in a silent forest, their presence a profound statement of endurance, of quiet wisdom, of deep connection to something larger than themselves. You wouldn't expect a tree to send you a postcard, would you? Its message is in its leaves, its bark, its deep roots. The socks, too, have found their rootedness, their silent eloquence. Perhaps their journey is circular. They vanish, they experience the lost realm, they achieve a state of peaceful surrender, and then eventually their threads, their very essence, are slowly re-spun, re-dyed, re-knitted into new socks to begin the cycle anew. Reincarnation, but for hosiery. Each new sock carrying within its fibers the faint, unconscious memory of past lives, past disappearances, past enlightenments. This would explain that occasional feeling of déjà vu when you put on a brand new pair. Haven't I been here before? You think of the concept of wabi-sabi, the Japanese aesthetic of finding beauty in imperfection, impermanence and incompleteness. The single sock, the lost sock, the unraveled thread, they're all expressions of wabi-sabi. Their story is not one of failure or defect, but of a different kind of beauty. A beauty that acknowledges the transient, fragile nature of things. Their silence, their absence, is part of this beauty. It creates a space for contemplation, for appreciation of the isness of what remains. What if the letters they do send are not to us, but to the universe itself? They offer their existence, their experiences, their very fibers, as a kind of tribute, a thank you note for the journey. And the universe, in its vast, silent way, accepts their offering. This feels like a grand, almost sacred purpose for a humble sock, to become a small, soft prayer of gratitude. You picture a sock, having reached its final destination, its ultimate peace. It's no longer recognizably a sock. It has merged with its surroundings, perhaps becoming a patch of particularly soft moss in the lost realm, or a gentle eddy in the lint-filled air. It is indistinguishable from its environment, and in that indistinguishability it has found perfect harmony. There is no I left to write a letter. There is only the peace of dissolution, the echoes of unraveled threads. You see them now not as remnants of something broken, but as tendrils reaching out, connecting everything. The thread from a lost sock might become entangled with a spider's web, which in turn captures a dewdrop, which reflects the morning sun. A tiny, almost invisible connection between the lost realm and the everyday world. These are their messages, these subtle, interconnected beauties. You consider the emotional impact on us, the humans who ponder this mystery. Perhaps the story of the vanishing sock and its peaceful surrender is a kind of modern koan, a gentle paradox designed to nudge our minds out of their usual ruts. Why do they vanish? Why no word? The unanswerability of it is the point. It invites us to sit with the unknown, to find comfort in not knowing, to embrace the gentle absurdity of it all. It's a small, everyday reminder that not everything needs to be solved, cataloged, or explained. Some things are just wonderfully, mysteriously so. As your thoughts slow, becoming softer, more diffuse, you feel a sense of resolution, not in finding an answer to the initial question, but in understanding that the question itself is a gift. It has led your mind on a gentle, meandering journey through imagined landscapes and whimsical possibilities and has brought you to this place of quiet acceptance. The socks are okay. More than okay. They have found their peace, their purpose, in their own way, in their own realm. And their silence is not an empty space but a fullness, a quiet hum of contentment that resonates if you listen carefully just beneath the surface of the world. They have, in their own humble, textile way, achieved a kind of transcendence. They have slipped the surly bonds of the foot and danced on laughter-silvered wings of static cling, to a place where laundry is but a distant dream. And they don't write home because they are home, in a way they never were before. A home woven from silence, softness, and surrender. A home where every thread is at peace. The final image that settles in your mind is of a single, perfect, white feather slowly drifting down in an infinitely quiet, softly lit space. It turns and sways, unhurried, content in its solitary dance. It is a symbol of their journey, their release, their ultimate gentle peace. And as it drifts, it seems to whisper, all is well, all is soft, all is quiet. Let go and sleep. Now, as these thoughts begin to soften, as the edges of these images blur and blend, you feel the gentle pull of stillness, the quiet invitation of sleep. The mystery of the vanishing socks, it seems, has unspooled itself not into a neat answer, but into a tapestry of gentle wonderings. A soft blanket of dreamy possibilities. There are no conclusions to be drawn, no solutions to be found. Only the quiet comfort of a mind allowed to wander freely, to play with the absurd, to touch the surreal, and to find a strange sort of peace in the unanswered questions. The rhythm of your thoughts slows, each one now like a wave receding softly from the shore, leaving behind only the smooth, cool sand of approaching slumber. The colors of the lost realm fade into a gentle, uniform gray, the color of pre-dawn, the color of deep rest. The whispers from the other side, the imagined communications, they too grow faint, dissolving into the ambient hum of the night around you, the soft breath of your own quiet room. Let the idea of the socks, their journeys, their silences, become a distant, gentle hum, a background melody to your descent into sleep. They are out there, or in there somewhere, in their peaceful surrender, their quiet contentment. And in that thought, perhaps, there is a permission for you, too, to surrender. To let go of the day, its concerns, its to-do lists, its lingering questions. To allow yourself to drift, to become untethered, to float in that safe, warm, dark space where dreams are born and worries dissolve like sugar in warm tea. Imagine one final, solitary sock, not lost, but perfectly at peace, nestled in a cloud of the softest, purest cotton, bathed in a light like moonbeams through mist. It has no story to tell, no message to send, only an aura of profound, unshakable calm. Let that calm be your companion now, as you close your eyes, as your breathing deepens, as the world outside fades into a distant murmur. There's only this moment, this quiet, this softness. Sweet dreams.